Hi there, folks. Welcome back to Press for Truth TV. Today is Thursday, February 28th, 2013, and there's been some new developments that just came out today in regards to some arrests that are being made against some people who were employing the Black Bloc tactic at the G20 summit in Toronto in June of 2010. Now, the interesting thing about these new developments is the fact that these people who have just been located and arrested after a lengthy investigation are American citizens, one of whom is being extradited for breaking windows here in Toronto during the G20 summit. Now, for those of you who know me, you will know that I definitely do not support any kind of Black Bloc tactics, but when you step back and take a look at the grand picture and the big scheme of things here, what's really a worse crime? Is breaking, a protester coming here and breaking some windows, which again I do not support, or is it police officers who violated the Constitution and completely obliterated the Bill of Rights here in Canada, as we saw the biggest violation of civil liberties that Canadians have ever seen? I am of the opinion that that is far much worse than a couple of broken windows. Guys, we have to remember that for every window that was broken at the G20, there were probably about 50 people who were wrongfully accused, wrongfully arrested, and imprisoned in what eventually became known as Trontonimo Bay down there, the warehouse that they turned into a makeshift prison. So right now, while we should be seeing police officers being disciplined for their actions, there have been some who have been disciplined, but it pretty much amounts to paid vacation, really. And the reason why we're having such a difficult time with that is because here we have a group called the OIPRD who's responsible for investigating crimes done by the police. And the problem with that is that the OIPRD is filled with former police officers. And as many of us know, they all kind of watch each other's back, not to mention the fact that police officers are not legally obliged to testify to the OIPRD. So it's really a pointless organization. They're not really a watchdog whatsoever. But now we see they're going after some of these people who broke some windows, and we're not seeing any police officers being held accountable at all. Here's an article out today from the National Post. Americans accused of Black Bloc protests during Toronto G20 summit nabbed in the U.S. Toronto police are set to announce a major break in their pursuit of 5 American men accused of inflicting some of the worst damage on downtown streets during the G20 summit protest in 2010. One man, an architect in Boston, has already consented to his extradition and traveled to Pearson International Airport last week, where he was taken into custody by officers from 23 Division. 3 others have been arrested by U.S. authorities, 2 of whom are in custody in Arizona and Pennsylvania, and law enforcement is actively seeking a 5th suspect in Pennsylvania. Toronto Police Detective Sergeant Gary Garou says the 5 accused are on his top 10 list of G20 offenders, believed to be responsible for at least $600,000 in property damage during the June weekend when the world's most powerful leaders came to Toronto. Thousands of people took to the streets that June 2010 weekend in demonstrations that turned violent at points, with smaller groups torching police cruisers, smashing windows of businesses and banks, and unleashing mayhem in the core. It led to the largest mass arrest in Canadian history, and also allegations of widespread civil rights violations and excessive police force. And that is the thing that we need to be talking about here, is the fact that these so-called Black Bloc tactics, these protesters who engaged in these tactics, were completely given a green light from the Toronto police. And this article goes on to say that they combed through hours and hours of footage to find these guys. In fact, I'll just refer back to the article here. It says In the aftermath of the vandalism, the unit watched hundreds of hours of videotape and looked at thousands of photographs, some submitted by the public, in an attempt to track down the culprits. They enlisted the help of the FBI and U.S. Marshals to find and keep tabs on the individuals as the files made their way through diplomatic and legal channels. Now, my question is, why to this date have we not yet seen any of the CCTV footage that was taken, in particular at the intersection of King and Bay, where two police cruisers were left in the middle of the intersection? I want to see the circumstances under which these police cars were left in the middle of the intersection, directly in the path of these protesters who are employing this black bloc tactic. Why have we yet to see that footage? I want to know why those police officers left those cars there. This was before any of these protesters had made it. Anybody who's seen our film Into the Fire, you will see that there is a large group of protesters marching south on Bay Street towards King, where two police cruisers were left in the middle of the intersection. And to this day, I have not seen any kind of footage that shows the circumstances in which those cars were left there. That ought to be investigated. That is something that we ought to be looking into. I mean, not only were these cars left in the middle of the intersection directly in the path of these protesters, but they were also allowed to burn for hours in some cases, to allow the mainstream media to get that photo op that was necessary for them to be able to clamp down on the rest of the protests the next day. Because as we all know, around Canada and around the rest of the world, those are the images that were blasted across the airwaves during the G20 summit. Was the epic image of a burning police car, which justified in the minds of the masses the clampdown on the protesters the following day. And that's why people's rights were turned to the side and said, you know, we'll worry about that later. Right now, let's arrest everyone, because everyone is potentially guilty at this point. That's the problem with a faceless movement like the Black Bloc. It's got so much room for infiltration by police officers to be able to use it to generate that excuse that is necessary to clamp down on an entire protest. That's one of the main issues I have with these faceless movements such as that. And of course, the Black Bloc tactics just simply don't make any sense to me. I never understood what smashing a bank window is supposed to accomplish anyways, other than giving the police the full excuse to clamp down on the thousands of legitimate protesters who were there at the G20. So anyways, guys, just some interesting developments I wanted to bring to your attention today. Looks like they're still looking for a few more of these guys, but police officers are not being held accountable, and this is something that is very, very troubling to me. Just watching the footage, if you haven't yet seen the film Into the Fire, please check it out. The footage speaks for itself. You will see how these police officers violated Canadians' rights, and I feel that is so much more of a worse crime than having a couple American protesters come down to Toronto and break in a couple windows. Again, I do not support Black Bloc tactics, but you know, what was a worse crime that took place here? Broken windows, or the thousands of people who were wrongfully accused, arrested, and imprisoned in what became known as Guantanamo Bay? So anyways, guys, just wanted to bring that to your attention today. I've got some other things in the works right now as far as some new directions. We're taking Press for Truth, so we got some major changes coming up very soon that I'll keep you all posted about. Probably announce some of the new changes next week. But anyways, guys, just wanted to give you a heads up on that and let you know about the new developments in regards to these new G20 arrests. And anyways, guys, that's it for today. I want to thank you all for tuning in once again. I'll see everyone right back here tomorrow. Okay, take care.